Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. In this video, we will be solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now, quadratic formula will follow you in your mathematical career, so it is a formula that you want to memorize. So here it is. We have a negative b plus or minus the square root, and inside that square root, we have b squared minus 4ac. Now, this is multiplication, so 4 times a times c, and all of that is being divided by 2 times a. Now, this formula gives you your values for x. Now, what are x? X's are our x-intercepts. They are our roots, our zeros, our values for x if we're trying to solve. So, quadratic formula is extremely important. Now, along with the quadratic formula, if you only take the things inside the square root, that is called a discriminant. Now, a discriminant tells you how many solutions you have to a question. So, you can have no solutions, you can have one solution, or you can have two solutions. So, if you get an answer that is a positive answer inside of your square root. So if your discriminant is positive, that means you will have two real solutions. Now, it does not tell you what they are. It just tells you how many you will have. So if you have a positive discriminant, that means you will have two real solutions. If you have a negative discriminant, that means you have no real solutions. Now, if your discriminant is 0, that means you're only going to have one real solution. Again, discriminant does not tell you what the answer is. It just tells you how many answers you will get. In order to find the answer, you will need to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula will tell you what the answer is. Let's jump into some examples. This one's asking us, use the discriminant to determine the number of real solutions. Again, 3 options. No solution, 1 real solution, 2 real solutions. Doesn't tell us what the answer is. It just asks us how many answers there will be. So when you're using the quadratic formula, I'm going to go back here to page 1. This is the formula that we're going to use. We're going to use ax squared plus bx plus c. So when you are being asked what is an a b, a c is always referring to a constant. Make sure you take the symbol with it. B is referring to the middle term. This is also in standard form, so make sure you take the sign with it. And then that third one here, let's see if I have a third color. Yes, I do. That third one is your leading coefficient on your x squared. Let's jump into that example 1 that we were talking about. So here is your A, your B, and your C. A is the number in front. B is the number in front of your x, and C is your constant. So that means A is 1 if it's not there, B is a positive 4, and C is a positive 1. Make sure to take the symbol with it. So when you're asked for the discriminant, you're going to use the discriminant formula. I'm going to write it here in a thinking bubble so we can come back to it. We have b squared minus 4 times a times c. Now, anytime you plug something in or you substitute in for a value, you always want to use parentheses. That is why b, a, and c are all in parentheses. Let's plug and chug. B is 4. Minus 4a is 1. Again, multiplying. C is also 1. Multiply. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 1 is still 4. 16 minus 4 is 4. So again, what are our options? If it is positive, greater than 0, that means there are 2 real solutions. Negative, no real solutions. 0, 1 real solution. So if our discriminant is 4, that means it's greater than 0. It's positive. That means that we will have 2 real solutions. So your answer is the quantity of solutions you will have, 2. Move on to example number 2. So we have A, B, C. Again, make sure to take the symbol with it. So here's our discriminant formula. We got B squared minus 4 times A times C. B is negative 6. 4 times A is 2. C is 15. So we're dealing with big numbers here, big numbers. Negative 6 squared, negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 6 is 36 minus 15 times 2. So 15 plus 15 is 30. 30 times 4 is 120. So I have 36 minus 120, and that gives me negative 84 as our discriminant. And I think I'm forgetting another N in there. Discriminant. 2 N's in there. So since our discriminant is negative, that means our answer is no real solutions. And I'm going to abbreviate solution with a line there. All right, example number 3. Let's try this one more time. Again, no number in front for your leading coefficient. That means you have an A value of 1. Then we have B value of 6 and C value of 9. Let's do that. B is 6 squared minus 4A is 1. C is 9. 6 times 6 is 36 minus 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 4 is also 36. So we have a discriminant of 0. And whenever we have a discriminant of 0, that means our answer has one real solution. So now that we know how many solutions there will be, let's actually solve for a solution. So example 1 is asking us to solve the quadratic, using the quadratic formula, but we are solving the quadratic equation. So step number 1, what we're going to do is we're going to identify our A, B, and C. Our A value here is 2, our B value here is positive 3, and our C value here is negative 5. So make sure you take the symbol in front. Always take the symbol. So this is A, this is B, this is C. I like to copy down the formula, so I have the formula right in front of me. This is the quadratic formula we are using. And instead of writing the A and the B's, I just write bubbles, and I have the formula in front of me. So I'm just going to separate this out here. So I have a negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. All of this is being divided by 2 times A. And the reason I like to put bubbles is because I have the formula in front of me, all I have to do now is just write in the correct numbers. This is B. So what is B? B is 3 positive. This one here is also B. So that means 3 positive goes in here. 4 times A, which is 2, and C, which is a negative 5. Down here, we have 2 times A, which is 2. Now we're going to evaluate this. Start with the discriminant, meaning the stuff inside the square root. So we have, let's write it here. I'm going to just draw an arrow so I can have some space here. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root. And let's plug and check everything in here. 3 squared is 9 minus 4 times 2, which is 8. 8 times 5, which is 40. But I have a negative here and I also have a negative here. That means I have a positive 40. I'm going to divide all of this by 2 times 2, which is 4. Moving on here to the right, I have negative 3 plus or minus the square root. Now I'm going to simplify this. 9 plus 40 is 49 divided by 4. The square root means what are two numbers that are the same multiplied together that give me 49. In this case, we have 7 and it should be positive. So I have a negative 3 plus or minus 7 divided by 4. Now here is where you're going to split them up. So you have two things happening. I'm going to take this, copy and paste it just so I have more space down below. You're going to do this twice. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to copy down all the numbers, leaving a space for the symbol. For one of them, you're going to take the plus version and you're going to write the plus. For the other one, you're going to take the minus version and you're going to put the minus here. And you're going to solve two different ones, one for the plus, one for the minus. So what do we have? We have a positive 4 divided by 4. Negative 3 plus 7 is 4, so that means I have 1. I'm going to circle it so I don't lose it. Negative 3 minus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. That means I have a negative 10, and I have divided by 4. I can simplify that fraction by dividing 2 on top and the bottom, so I have negative 5 halves. Now, it is okay that this is a fraction. It is okay that it is negative. These are just the values that if I take these values and I plug them into my original equation, they will give me an answer of 0. So how do we write our answers? I'm okay if you do it this way. You can also write your answers like this. X is equal to negative 5 halves, comma, 1. And you're telling me that X can be both values. When I plug in these two values one at a time, each one will give me an output of 0. Let's do one more example here. This one is not in standard form, so we have to put it in standard form. I'm going to subtract 2x both sides because it has to be equal to 0. So I have 0 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 4. And do you notice how we have 0 on this left-hand side now? That's okay. It doesn't matter. So we're just going to identify our A, our B, and our C. So C is negative 4, B is negative 2, A is missing, so A is 1. I'm going to separate the work here, and I'm going to write my quadratic formula, again, using bubbles. So negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C divided by 2 times A. And go back in and write what our values are. So negative B. And how do I know this formula? I have it right in front of me and I'm cheating a little bit. So B, what is negative B? B is negative 2. And this is a good example of why I keep the negative outside, because you want to plug in the actual number. In this case, B is negative 2, so we put in negative 2. Again, B is negative 2. I put a negative 2 here. A is 1. C is negative 4. And A is 1. I'm going to take this here and I'm going to do that first. I'm going to just draw a little arrow so we can follow along here. Two negatives, you can simplify this. You know, two negatives make a positive. So I have 2 plus or minus square root of negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4 minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. I have 2 negatives here being multiplied, so I'm going to be adding. I'm going to be dividing by 2 times 1, which is 2. Moving over here to the side, we're going to continue simplifying in here. So we have 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 16, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, divided by 2. At this point, you're going to separate this out. Remember, one for the plus, one for the minus. So I have 2 plus the square root of 20 divided by 2. 2 minus the square root of 20 divided by 2. Now, this one is a little bit more challenging because of the fact that you have your square root. Your square root of 20 can be simplified, but it doesn't simplify to a pretty number. So how you're going to do that, I'm going to do this in a very small thinking bubble here. So square root of 20 can be separated out to two things. Both of them are in the square root. I have 4 times 5 equals 20. And now we can take the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. You cannot take the square root of 5. So square root of 20 is equal to 2 times the square root of 5. So when I go back in here to write this out, this right here is going to be changed into 2 times the square root of 5. So I'm going to write that one more time. I'm going to close this gap here so we can separate this out. So 2 plus 2 times the square root of 5 divided by 2. And then this one here is 2 plus 2 times the square root of 5 divided by 2. Now you can take this a step further. Like you can leave it here, but it would be considered incomplete. It would be not simplified. So how do you simplify this further? I'm going to move to a separate sheet of paper. To simplify it further, I'm going to rewrite this. Kind of where were we? So we were here. Then we separated them out to 2 plus the square root of 20 divided by 2 and 2 minus the square root of 20 divided by 2. Then we said we can rewrite the square root of 20 as 2 times the square root of 5. Oops, this should be a minus. So another step that you can do is you can separate them out and have each term be divided by your denominator. So I can have 2 divided by 2 plus 2 times the square root of 5 divided by 2. I'm just taking each term and dividing it by the denominator. 2 divided by 2 minus 2 square root of 5 divided by 2. And that way you can simplify your 2 divided by 2, this one here. But you can only do this after you have separated this out into multiple terms. So I'm going to write this here. So we have two answers. Answer 1. Answer 1 is 1 plus 2 root 5 divided by 2. And your secondary answer is 1 minus 2 root 5 divided by 2. Both of them are equal to your x. And both of these are your answer. All right, beautiful people, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!